Hey, what's happening, Roland? Well, today is the day for my Friday update of the week. But before I get started in talking about all the great things that happened this week, all the great fishing, I want to just introduce the fact that tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 25th of September, is the National Hunting and Fishing Day. And so it's a big honor, and Bass Pro Shop is one of my biggest advertisers, and Johnny Morris is a great big supporter of the National Hunting and Fishing Day. In fact, he's got a new venture up there in Springfield I just have to tell you about. It's all connected. It's where the headquarters are now for the National Hunting and Fishing headquarters for the United States, and it's at the big Springfield store, and it's called Wonders of Wildlife. Now, if you haven't heard of the Wonders of Wildlife, what the Wonders of Wildlife is, it's like $1 billion museum, and it's Johnny Morris's tribute to the conservation efforts that he's doing. You know, I've told you for many times that Johnny Morris is the world's greatest contributor to conservation, and by him bringing forth this Wonders of Wildlife in the great big museum with the biggest aquarium in North America, and with 35,000 live animals and fish in the system, you know, he's created a museum and a deal for conservation that's actually bigger than the Smithsonian Institute as far as just the square footage. Now, the Smithsonian Institute is the hallmark of all museums, and when I worked in Washington, D.C., I used to work for Atlas Sporting Goods store down in 9th and D. It was only 3 or 4 blocks away from the Smithsonian Institute. So I'd pack a sandwich. This was back when I was in college, back 40, 50 years ago. And I'd take a sandwich and I'd put it in my pocket, and I'd run to the Smithsonian Institute, and I'd walk all through I'd only do like 1 floor at a time because I only had an hour. And I'd run through the whole thing, and I'd look at the whales and the fish maybe that day, and the next day I'd go up on another floor and I'd look at the dinosaurs or whatever it happened to be. But anyway, Smithsonian Institute is the biggest museum in the whole world. But the Wonders of Wildlife is a museum, and it's an aquarium, and it's just a tribute to conservation. It's a big effort. In fact, there's 1.5 miles of just trails. If you just walk through the system, and there's dioramas of like the North American game, and then over here is the polar game, and over here is a big room full of African wildlife, and over here is the Indian wildlife, and here's the Arctic Ocean, and there's like 20 different diorama areas where all these different animals are there. And then as you go walking through, you push the little buttons, and you look at the animal if you don't know what it is, and it tells you what the animal is. It's on the screen, and it's in color as well, in voice. But you go through the aquarium, hey, it's the greatest aquarium you've ever seen. It's been voted, the aquarium is just part of it. It's been voted for like 3 years in a row the #1 attraction in the United States, #1. And it's also been voted the best aquarium in the United States, #2. And so it takes you 3 to 4 hours to just walk through it. I'll tell you what Johnny Morris has done. He's made such a contribution to conservation that the first time we went to open it about 10 years ago, it wasn't quite up to his standards. He says, no, I'm not going to open it. So he spent another, I don't know how much, and redid a whole bunch of stuff and repainted it and expanded it. He went to open it the second time. And again, it wasn't quite up to Johnny's standards. Johnny has high standards, and he had a lot of money to spend to do it. And so wasn't up to his standards the second time. Finally, the third time, which is 3 or 4 years ago, he had the great big grand opening. And that grand opening was something. I was invited there. Martin Truex, the race drivers, were up there. There was Luke Bryan, the singer. He was on the stage. Johnny invited me up, and I fished, of course, with those guys. And there was President Carter was there, and also President Bush was there. And it was really neat for me to kind of, behind the stage, talk to a lot of these luminaries, and even President Bush and President Carter, talking about fishing experiences we'd had together because I'd fished with so many of those guys. But anyway, Johnny brings everybody together on a big national stage, and it's just a greatest tribute. If you want to spend an afternoon or a whole day, you go to the Wonders of Wildlife, because there's also the Fred Bear Archery Museum right there next to it, and then there's the big Bass Pro Shop store itself. It takes hours to go through that thing. That's a huge thing. And then for a place to stay, hey, run down to Big Cedar Lodge. Big Cedar Lodge is the finest lodge in all of the Ozarks, just right there on Table Rock Lake. That's where I go and do a lot of fishing down there as well. Well, anyway, Hunting and Fishing Day was actually is tomorrow. But a lot of the stores, the Cabela's chain of stores, for example, celebrated it yesterday, which is the 23rd, and they have a bunch of specials and store promotions going on. In all the stores, all the Cabela stores and all the Bass Pro Shop stores, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of seminars, a lot of neat sales. And anyway, hunting fishing day is just something special to me. You know, when I grew up, my parents didn't want me to hunt and fish. They wanted me to become a doctor or a lawyer or Indian chief. I don't know what they wanted me to do, but I wanted to fish all the time. And they said, you know, you're just wasting your time fishing. Well, the sad part about my career is that I've made a success out of my hunting and fishing career. Okay, it's a big success. I'm really proud of it. Unfortunately, my parents were killed in an auto wreck, and they never saw me as a successful outdoorsman that I am. They just thought I was kind of a black sheep of the family, and I just wish that I could show them that, hey mom, hey dad, I know you died years ago in an auto wreck, but I've been a success nevertheless. So anyway, let's get out there. So anyway, I want to show you something that happened this last week. I'm going to take you outside for a second. Come on, let's go outside, and I'm just going to show you something real quick. Okay, I'm going to come outside. I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to talk about some fishing that's going on. Now, last weekend we had a Taker Soldier fishing event. And you know, with my fishing and hunting now, my hunting and fishing is not in how big a fish I can catch or how many tournaments I can win. That's all a thing of the past. My deal with hunting and fishing, and what hunting and fishing day means to me, is that I'm passing it on. I like to take the soldiers fishing. I like to take my grandkids fishing. I like to take guide parties fishing. And the first thing I ask them, what's your biggest bass? I'm going to try to get you your biggest bass. So, I mean, I have goals. I try to pass on information. Well, let's just look at this. Okay, here's the deal. Look at it. Last weekend we were out there, and this is one of the Special Forces soldiers that I gave him a hand line. I gave him a hand line right here, and now watch this when I hit the button. Watch this. Watch what happens. Look here. Watch.
Luke is after him.
Look what's coming. Look what's coming up. Big old strong guy. Look at this fish that's coming up. Look at this guy. That's what we're catching. Look at this guy. Whoa, son! It's like a 250 pound bigger. That fish is bigger than he is.
150 pound Goliath.
150. Anyway, folks, that's the kind of thing we were doing. And we were out there, and I had another guy. He never caught a big barracuda. I did the same thing. He caught a great big barracuda about 5 feet long. He weighed about 30 or 40 pounds. And then everybody caught fish, and we were taking little live pinfish and catching some a bunch of snappers, a bunch of big mangrove snappers, 3 and 4 pounds, and some big yellowtail snappers, 3 or 4 pounds. And we didn't win the tournament. No, we didn't win the tournament. But everybody caught like 10 or 15 fish and had a ball. So that's what we did last weekend. Take a soldier fishing was just a really big part of it. Okay, then this last Wednesday, I said to Sean, my camera guy, in fact, he's shooting a film right now. I said, Sean, we haven't been over to that one gravel pit much lately. They're digging a couple gravel pits over here west of town. And this one we'd fished a couple times, but the other one I'd never fished. So I called the proprietor up. I said, Chris, can I fish your new gravel pit? He said, okay. So we get over there, and unfortunately, there's no launch ramp. Now that's why I took this little boat. I took this little tracker. It's such a neat little boat because I got 4-wheel drive on my truck, and this little tracker only weighs 1,000 or so pounds. It's got a little 40 horsepower motor on it, and I can slide it in the water to some extent, you know, in some kind of rough places. I could never get my Z21, my big 2,000, 3,000 pound bass boat. I couldn't get it in. When we get over there, Sean Stevens is my good friend, and Sean has got a backhoe, and he's doing some work over there, putting some culvert pipes in. And he's got this great big backhoe, and he says, don't worry, Roland, I'll make you a launch ramp. So he digs it out. He digs the launch ramp out, and I put the boat in. Okay, I run around the lake, and I'm not catching much. I'm throwing a spinnerbait some, nothing's happening. I'm throwing a chatterbait some, and nothing's happening. And of course, the old Senko. I finally get over to a place, and I look in the water, and I have my good polarized glasses on, and guess what I see? I see some water coming up. The water's kind of dingy because they've been dragging and dredging sand and gravel out of the pond, out of the pit. But this one area is clear water. It's coming through another culvert pipe from another area, from another canal. And I see this kind of clear water kind of bubbling up, and I see these minnows. across the top. And I said, man, that is a scenario right here for catching fish. Moving water catches fish. Now, you saw me post a couple of deals on moving water. Well, I find moving water. Okay, so I took the Cinco, threw it in there, bam, 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 a couple 3-pound bass right away. I said, okay, that's a good deal. Let's try the second thing. I took the chatterbait, white chatterbait with the that's not a Zaco tail, that's actually a D-shad tail, 3/8 ounce evergreen. Well, it's the jackhammer series. Bam, 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 another couple 3 and 4 pound fish. Then I take a little crankbait, the Little John series crankbait, and I throw it in there, boom, boom, boom. A couple small fish, a couple medium-sized fish on a crankbait. So they're really biting this thing. This moving water is the key. Well, then I'll leave it for a while. I figured, well, I'll go catch some fish somewhere else. So I'll go around the shoreline, I don't catch hardly anything. I come back to that culvert pipe again, take the old Roland Martin big bass spinnerbait. You know, you've seen me, I designed this as that for the big fish with a great big heavy wire and a great big hook, big 4 or 5 aught hook on 20-pound line, and big old number 5 willow leaf blade with a number 2 Colorado blade. Anyway, that's a big bass spinnerbait. I roll it in there, bam, a couple nice bass. So the point is, I did a good film, found moving water, caught plenty of fish. So my week was full of a lot of neat excitement. It was fun catching a lot of bass, taking the soldier fishing, and honoring National Hunting and Fishing Day. So that's my week, and folks, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you again soon.